But basically, yeah, I know a little bit about you and what you do. But if you kind of want to just start a little bit of background of what you do and what got you into that space, as far as I know you sell cars and you kind of do a little
Yeah.
bit with the drones and stuff like that.
Yeah. So born and bred here in Jacksonville, Illinois. Still live here. I've been selling cars for the last 8 years. A little bit before that, how I got into the car industry. My dad runs a mechanic shop, so I kind of grew up on that side of things. I've always had toy cars and enjoyed building them. I worked for him for a few years. Got an associate's right after high school for business and administration, and was always kind of interested in that aspect of things and business marketing and sales. And so it was a pretty good fit. I realized I didn't want to work on cars every day. It kind of killed the hobby for me. So it was something, I was processing insurance claims and just sitting in a cubicle all day, and it wasn't very exciting. And so I applied for a couple jobs. One was actually phone repair. I've been doing that, so I applied on the side, and so I applied at AT&T just as like their sales position, and at the same time I applied at a dealership, just a small dealership. We carry 40 cars at a time normally, but we're doing pretty well. Yeah, so my turnover there is anywhere between 20 and 35 cars a month. So, we're clearing the entire line that we have, which is a really good ratio for any dealership. But yeah, so between those two, I was able to, yeah, I just went with the sales position there at the dealership and didn't really know much about sales at the time. It's a little worrisome going from, a salary or just an hourly pay job to something that has no bottom, but it also has no ceiling either. And so it was something as I began to learn how to sell and help people more and figure out the back end of like, how can I get this person from point A to point B, as far as like through financing, and do these fit, and just the whole nuance of sales process and finance. Things started to go really well. I think the first year I sold 126 cars. The last 3 years I've sold 300 plus cars. So
Wow.
yeah, doing pretty well on that side. And then, yeah, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I started getting into some of the drones. You can probably see a couple of them behind me
Yeah.
there. Um, Building custom drones, and then I also have like some Mavics and some commercial style drones like that as well. But I started flying more for a hobby, and then it's something I picked up and started doing for other people. And so, like today, actually, I've got a golf cart place over in Taylorville that I'm going to go fly, and I'm
Nice.
flying from outside the facility, just around like all their stuff outside, and then actually going to fly in through the sales area and the service bay, and then come back out and just get like a whole one set sequence for them. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, started doing that for a couple of years, and then that's just kind of advanced and evolved into a full blown marketing agency. And so really started picking up a lot for automation, email, text, missed calls, text back, stuff like that. Getting into that for businesses, and I plan to actually leave the dealership May, June, and start doing the marketing stuff full time. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
That's
It's a
good.
little scary leaving a pretty cushy
Yeah.
commission based job to jump out on my own. But I think long term, I looked at where I wanted to be in 5 or 10 years, and it wasn't owning my own dealership. And so I thought it was probably time to move on, and I'm just going to have to jump off that cliff and see where it goes. So,
Nice. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I've seen your posts before, at the end of the month and stuff like that, where you're like, cranking down on your whiteboard of like how many sales or how many cars you've sold. So,
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
I don't know what is an average, you would say for, and obviously if you're a smaller dealership, you have less, salespeople and stuff like that. But what's an average
Yeah.
like a car salesman would have?
I mean, it kind of runs out the same. Your bigger dealerships also have more salespeople, but they also have 300 cars.
Yeah.
So it would be, I would probably actually sell more vehicles at a larger dealership. It's just a different environment, and it's something that I don't think that I need to be in.
Yeah.
And I have more control where I'm at. So the small dealership, I'm not just like a door guy. I do everything from hello all the way to your paperwork, the finance side, and then sending you out the door. If you need anything on the back end, I can set up service, stuff like that. So instead of me just being one part of that, I'm very much all of it, and I like having that control of things. And so that's why I like working at the small dealership. Your average salesperson, I think the national average that somebody's going to sell is between 9 and 12 a month. So, to hit 25, 30 cars a month is, three times that. I'm probably in the top 5% of the nation as far as auto sales or, the commissions.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, the number seemed high to me. I obviously don't know too much about car sales, but like it definitely seemed like it was excessively more than what a normal
Yeah,
salesman would have. I can't imagine, especially with you dealing from the start to the finish, right? Like
yeah,
you
it's a
are the
lot.
like you're saying. So I mean, it's also a good thing because it's probably helped you build more relationships with people because
Oh,
of
for
being
sure.
involved
Well, and
in the
there's
whole
less BS
process.
for the customer, right? So when you come in, instead of just getting handed off to an F&I guy that doesn't care, they're just trying to tag you on the way out. Really, they're trying to sell you extended warranties, the stock fee, and all this stuff on the back end. We don't do that. I handle it. I'm totally transparent with all the numbers. This is what it is, and we move on. And people appreciate that. And so the repeat and referral has been good. But along that time too, right? I talked about being really interested in the marketing and sales. The marketing side is very big on that. And so figuring out, how to get leads from Facebook for $5 a piece, and then knowing my closing ratios there, how much money do I need to put into AdWords? Are these converting? And what's working? Yeah, figuring that stuff out has really helped. And that's something that your everyday salesperson really isn't getting into, right? They're just showing up, trying to close what's coming in. Where I'm generating that stuff myself, and I really enjoy that side. And so I think that's going to be really exciting to do that for other businesses as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, and you're spot on. I mean, most salesmen are just like come in, clock out. I'm here just to try to sell a car to whoever steps in the lot.
Yeah,
And, at the end of the day, that's all. So living and breathing is good because it's also obviously, giving you this opportunity to, after if when you decide to leave, you have all this knowledge and experience where you can still offer marketing services to that dealership or other
yeah,
dealerships. So
yeah,
it's a
for sure.
win-win. So is that something you've thought about doing, or you're going to do? Is just offering
It
them
is.
like
I
advertising and stuff?
still plan on maintaining the advertising side on that side for that dealership, and then that is something that I plan on niching out to at least in this area. Probably not in Jacksonville, just to save that for them.
Yeah,
But yeah, in the area, to open that up to where I can just say, hey, these are the things that I've built. If you want it, this is how much it costs, and it's going to be very easy for me to implement. There's no testing. It's already been tested for 3 years, 4 years.
yeah, exactly. On the note of car dealerships, since you're in Apex and stuff, have you
Yeah.
ever seen or used Jason? I think it's Gardner's Tech Obi stuff, or looked at his software that he's
Uh-uh.
had, or seen it?
No, I'm not
I don't
familiar
know.
with it.
Okay, so I'll send you a link to it after this, but I don't know all about it. I know that like his background is car dealerships and he built like a software for like automation and like leads and stuff like that, but he's been doing it for like 7 or 10 years and
Okay.
it seems like he's got a lot of dealerships on board with it. I don't know all the ins and outs of what it does, but it seems pretty cool and seems like he's doing pretty good for himself. So may at least give you some ideas for the
Yeah,
stuff that
of
you're
how to move
working on as
forward. Yeah,
well.
I'll have to check out that if you can send me that link for sure.
Yeah.
I have a lot of my stuff set up through high level.
Yeah.
So I'm just building out these automations where if somebody, like for example, our dealership, how I have it set up, if somebody puts a lead in through our website, if it comes in through Carfax, Cars.com, Auto Trader, whatever it is, instead of all that going to an email address or to a text to me, it's getting picked up, it's getting scraped. So all those leads from all these different spots are going into one CRM, and then it's also following up with them. So within 5 minutes of them submitting a lead, they're getting a text, they're getting an email, and if it's between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., they're getting a voicemail. If not, it's going to wait and then send that voicemail later. So they're getting all these touches before I even have to pick up and do anything. If they respond, it kicks them out. If I have time, I can go in and see what's there and then start responding to them manually. But if not, they're already getting those touches. And so being able to keep that pipeline moving when I'm busy with other people is very powerful. And it's one of those things where, if you're planning on selling a lot, you're not going to have as much time. And so making sure that they're still getting farther in that pipeline is very powerful.
Oh
And,
yeah.
for other dealerships, it's like, hey, if I'm having troubles, right, hiring people that are quality, at least this is still getting done. Or if I'm busy, if I'm a 1 or 2 person show and I'm busy doing other things, these people are still getting the touches that they need to move forward in the process. And even if it's simple stuff, right? It's not just emailing them, hey, buy my shit. It's the first ones are, hey, I see that you're interested in my car. I'm checking to see if it's available. Let me know if you have any questions here. And then sure, they'll follow up or not. And then when I have time, I can go in and check that it is or is not available, call them, text them, however, to get back in contact. So, and
Yeah.
as time progresses, if that doesn't pick up to where they're kind of falling off, it more goes into value building for me, where I'm building, hey, this is how you read a Carfax. Hey, this is what financing is about. These are the things that you need to watch out for on paperwork, doc fees, edge fees, stuff like that. These are back end fees that other dealerships are going to charge you. That's really just profit pad. And so educating the customer on some other things more than just, hey, buy my shit, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know how it compares to the repair side of things as far as like phone repair stuff, but like
Mm,
generally somebody that's looking for getting their phone fixed, that lead, if you're not calling that person back within a fast amount of time, they're just going to go
yeah,
somewhere else. And I don't know if it's like that
yeah.
with cars, if there's not a lot of other options, or if they have a
I,
specific car that they're looking for, but like I feel like a lost lead like that, that's where that automation side helps, is like you're getting
yeah,
that like instant text or instant reply, like, yeah, hey, we'd love to take care of you, stop by today between these hours and we'll make sure you get taken care of or whatever. Like they're at least getting that response, whether they know it's a real
yeah,
person or not. That's the huge part of it, is because
yeah.
they want that instant gratification, I feel like, anymore. Like if they don't get it, like, oh, they don't care, they don't want to sell a car today, and they just move on.
Yeah, speed to lead really matters. So, I mean, when you think about it in a car aspect, it's a little bit different than the phones, right? Because if you want a phone fixed, like it's the same repair everywhere. So that's sort of right. There's
Right.
different quality. The same thing is for a car, though. It's like even if they're looking for a red Honda Civic, they are going to go onto AutoTrader or Cars.com, and there's probably going to be 7 red Honda Civics pop up, and then it's all about speed to lead from there. Yeah. And so we talk about the phone side of things and this new automation stuff that I'm getting into in the marketing agency. I'm actually running some stuff for Josh, and I'm beta testing it with him right now, to where I have both of his stores set up with AI bots. So it's really powerful. I've had when people call him, if his employees are busy or if it's after hours, let's say it's after hours and somebody calls, rings, goes to voicemail to pick that up, but then the CRM's picking it up and it's texting him. It says, hey, sorry we missed you. How can I help? And then if they're responding to that lead after hours, or if the lead responds back, rather, it's going, oh, well, I need my phone fixed. It's going to pick up and say, what kind of phone do you have? What's wrong with it? And then it's automatically going to go through a pricing table that Josh has for all his quotes. And it's going to go ahead and price them and then give them address and hours to both of his locations, depending on where they're at or if they need directions. It's capable of processing all of that. And so it's an extremely powerful system that I'm really excited to get working. And then I'm also working on some widgets and stuff like that for like quoting through a website so that it can pick it up and do the exact same thing.
Nice, yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, and like the opportunity to, gather all that data for leads and having it in your CRM is just powerful in itself, because
Yeah.
if your salespeople or whoever's running your front desk, whatever it may be, some people just don't feel comfortable either asking for email or putting your information, or that somebody has a complicated email and you got to type it out for them and stuff like that. Like there's just a little bit more complication there, as to where if they're reaching out or the leads coming in through various ways, whether it's email, through a phone call, through website, whatever it is, that data is
Yeah.
already being collected, and now you don't have to worry about asking for it. Obviously you don't have to put in all the right information if you're a customer, but like
Yeah.
an email list is just powerful. A text messaging list, if they opt in for stuff, is huge. I mean, you can
Yeah.
get out, hey, we're having a special promo this month, come by, $30 off of screen protectors, whatever it is, like for that niche. It's
Yeah.
so powerful. These guys underestimate it, and that's what blows me away. Is some people are just like, they're there to just try to offer the service, and that's it. They're not thinking about the lifetime value of that customer. Oh, they already came in and got their phone fixed, or oh, they already came in and bought their car from me. What are they going to need me for again? But there's so much more to that customer after
Well, I
that.
mean, when you think about it in a lifetime value, let's say that you've been in business a few years and you've done some drawings or whatever to collect some emails or text messages. The list that I have at the dealership, somewhere around 5,000 people, that I have just collected emails and phone numbers for myself, and not necessarily on the dealership side. Um, if I was to send out an email and be able to offer some sort of service, if you close 1% of 5,000 people, it's 50 people. It's a lot of. If you put that in terms of, if you just got $20 off of one of them, or $50 off of one of them, or whatever that repair margin is, or whatever a phone screen protector margin is, it's extremely powerful. And then on something like that too, if they're taking advantage of a phone screen protector, if they're coming in, maybe you upsell them something else, or they see it and they're like, I remember, this is what they do now. I've done business with them in the past. Obviously, I like them. My phone's cracked. I'm going to go ahead and get that fixed. It's just reaching out to that customer.
Yeah.
Some of it is a pitch, right? But it's also brand awareness, and marketing is two different things. You have that direct pitch, and then you also have brand awareness, and that helps with both.
100%. And that's, the big piece of, kind of is what you're doing with your marketing side, and kind of like what we do with our stuff is like, it's the idea of just constantly putting your brand out there. So,
Yeah,
Facebook, people are just scrolling, just like a retargeting ad. You're eventually going to just like not even know that you're seeing the same ad so many times, but like you will
yeah,
subliminally just see that image in your head whenever you're not even looking at Facebook. Like I see the same supplement ads or the same
yeah,
certain ads of like brands, and I will always remember them because I've seen them so many times now just scrolling.
yeah,
And so many people just underestimate that value there of that alone, because like, oh man, who was that? Like they will, oh yeah, I know Josh down the street, he fixes them, like, or
yeah.
he sells
Top of
cars. Like
mind.
exactly. And it's so crazy how some people just underestimate the power of either the brand building side of things, or just think that like the word of mouth is going to be enough for them to sustain or grow. And it's
Yeah,
not like that anymore. Like we're in the age of digital, society now. It's not like it was in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, where word of
yeah,
mouth was how you built a business, other than maybe the phone book.
yeah. I see a big issue with small business owners, in town or just wherever, that I've dealt with, and I talk to them. It's when somebody's, and that's kind of an advantage I have starting this marketing agency, right? I'm already really good at marketing and sales. I've dialed it in. It's worked really well for me for the past 8 years as I've, built through that and started learning and really put a lot of time in. And it's one of those things where they want to open a business, they have an offer. Their offer could be great, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to sell anybody. And I see this really bad fallacy where people are just excited to open a business, and they go buy a spot and they put a sign on the door and they switch it from closed to open. And they're like, well, this is going to be great. They're going to be rolling in. And that's not necessarily the case. If nobody knows about your product and they're not excited about your product, then they're probably not going to be walking through that door. And you could just have the best service in the world, the best product in the world. And if nobody knows about it, then nobody's going to come visit it because they don't know that you exist.
Exactly. And I think that that's the biggest thing is like, the younger generations that are turning into business owners and taking over for, I guess the boomer era of people who do own small businesses now. Like that's the biggest
Yeah.
differences. But there still is a large gap of even our generation of people that just are, I don't know if I should say scared, or they're just, it's
Yeah.
something holds them back from, whether it's posting on social media. It's like, you just have to put yourself out there. Like at the bottom
Yeah.
line, like people will see you, and nobody's out there to really, and if somebody's judging you, so be it. But like,
Yeah.
no press is, any press is good press, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No matter what, people are going to think about your brand, and whether or not it was good or bad, like it's going to put it at the top of their head. And, you know, it may seem scary or hard to do at first, but jumping out there and just doing it, like you're saying, like leaving the car dealership to
Yeah,
go do
for
this
sure.
stuff, you got to, and you don't know what it's going to, do or entail. But the only way to find out is just to do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's like jumping off that cliff and hoping the net's there, It's really what it
exactly.
boils down to. For me on that side too, it's like the net is pretty close, right? It's not a very far fall if this was to fail, and it's not going to. I already have, I'm stepping out because it's already successful at this
Right.
point, right? I'm running out. I know that everything works, the systems are in place, it's working, and I already have the customer base, and so it's a nice transition. But for a lot of people, it's that fear of rejection, it's that feel of failure, and what are people going to think about it if I fail, right? The reality is, though, it's like social media is a highlight reel, and they're not seeing that. They don't know that a lot of these business owners are facing these other struggles, or they're the only one that's seen this sort of rejection. And if you're not willing to put yourself out there and experience some of that, you're not going to make it through as part of the process. It's not like this is a singular event. That's part of the process for everybody. And the challenge is for everybody. Everybody feels that fear of rejection. Everybody has that fear of failure. It's just overcoming it and doing what you need to do to put it in place to make things happen. And a lot of it on the social media side is, once you get that engagement and you're building that, a lot of it is not necessarily just pitching ideas anymore. It's building yourself as a brand. If you're an authentic person and you can show up every day and tell that to people, they're going to start to know, like, and trust you.
Yep.
And then they're going to want to do business with you. It's that simple, right? If I'm a good guy, my product works, they can see both. Why would you not want to do business with me? It's going to make you
Exactly.
more money, and you're doing it with somebody you can trust. It's a no brainer. And so if you can
Exactly.
get in front of the right people with that message, how are you going to fail?
Exactly. And that's what's crazy about it is like, you have this massive platform, multiple platforms at this point, depending on what
Yeah,
industry you're in. But like,
yeah,
Facebook obviously being the biggest with how many people are there and how many eyes are there to see you. But like, depending on what you do, maybe TikTok's a better, opportunity. Well, I mean, unknown of what how that's going
yeah.
to work moving
Depending on how
forward.
this week goes, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Instagram, I mean, even Twitter at this point obviously has grown a
Yeah,
lot since Elon's taken over. I mean, there's opportunity everywhere. And I mean, you still have places like Etsy and Pinterest where people are just making a lot of money hand over fist now by just selling,
yeah,
whether it's a digital product or a hobby. So, I mean, again, it comes to that jumping, like you're saying, because a lot of people are like, oh, what if nobody buys it? Like, who cares? Put it up, list it. If they don't
yeah,
buy it, they don't buy it. But like, you're not going to know until you do it. You have to take that step in order to
yeah,
know if not, you're going to get feedback and take
yeah,
that feedback and improve on it. And
yeah. And a lot of it, is calculated risk and all of that, right? You're doing these things because you've seen other people. Like most of business is not inventing something new anymore. It's just doing what works for other people and figuring it out. And if you can see all these other people, well, if you think about it in old terms, right? Like, or in the olden days, if you wanted to get in front of 100 people, you were going to have to figure out how to fill a room full of 100 people. And I think people get kind of jaded to that. Where if you go and look, like I've got a little over 5,000 people that follow me on Facebook. If I post a video and it gets 2 or 3 thousand views, or if it really takes off and gets 15 to 30,000 views, that's extremely powerful. I have the entire town of Jacksonville that has seen my message. And for brand awareness, even if it's just your personal brand, right? You as a person, that's extremely powerful. And so I think people get a little disgruntled too when they're posting something and maybe they get 10 likes or 15 likes. But the reality is if you got 10 likes, probably 150 people saw that. And
exactly.
if you were to pay to put your message out in front of 150 people, how much would that cost, to get in a room and give that pitch or whatever? I think it's just your ability to do that is so much easier now. It, to not take advantage of that's just not advantageous. It's
Agreed. Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, it's a lot of people do look at just like that, like, oh, I only got a couple likes, or I only got one or two comments or shares. But like you're
mm,
saying, there's so many more impressions and so many more people that reach just because they didn't interact, because they didn't like it, they didn't share it, doesn't
yeah,
mean they didn't see it, and doesn't mean they don't see all your other posts. Like
yeah,
some people just scroll and they don't like stuff, they don't comment, they don't share, and that's just the reality of it. And you're right. Like that's a lot of people's like, I wouldn't say shame, but like they feel like, oh,
yeah,
nobody likes what I'm putting out there. Nobody likes
yeah,
this because I don't get any likes, or but so and so gets 100 likes and 20 comments, and I see all the people sharing their stuff. But it could be a completely different demographic, and
yeah.
there's so
Well,
many
and
opportunities.
it's a war of attrition too. It's when you first start doing anything, it's probably going to suck. But you've got to do it a long time to figure out how to not suck at something. And so it's the same thing when posting on Facebook or getting your message out there or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Getting in front of a video, doing a video. Your first ones are probably going to suck. You're not going to know what to do. You're going to stumble. You're going to be super self-conscious and not post it, right? But you've got to break that and just win that war of attrition. And then over time, those things will start to feed on top of each other, and you'll build that base. And especially with Facebook or any social media, they have algorithms in place to where if you disappear for a month, it's almost like a credit score. They don't know what your value is going to be anymore. And so they're probably not going to show you in the feed because they're just trying to get people to stay there so that they can run ads to them. It's that simple.
Yep.
So if they know you're popular and you're consistently posting something, even if it's 10 people, but it's a consistent 10 people, Facebook knows that you're good for that 10 people check, and they're going to show you to those 10 people.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and you're spot on. Like that's one thing a lot of people do underestimate is,
Yeah.
oh, they give up, and then it's like you're starting back probably further behind than where you were when you first started because of the algorithm noticing like, well, you gave it a try, then you gave up. Now, like we're going to push you back down further and make you try harder, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And I mean, I've seen it personally. I've stopped posting for a month before. I've stopped posting for
Yeah.
however long. And you do see that massive difference of where you were even in the beginning when you first started posting to when you started back over. That reach
Yeah.
isn't there. The, engagement, you see the followers you've lost. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely a learning curve. And a lot of people just get, I wouldn't say like they give up, but there's like, all right, I tried it for 4 days, but like
Yeah.
it's not even a 30-day process. Like
Well, think
it's
about it like fitness. If you were going to
yeah,
work out for 30 days, you're probably not going to notice that, right? Your influence, your ability to influence people and your fitness is not Amazon Prime. You're not going to see
yep.
it in 2 days. That's just not how it works.
That's a good analogy, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's comparable to even ads. Like, expecting an instant result from running ads. Like, oh, I spent $100 this month and I didn't see any return on my investment. These Facebook ads don't work, but it's like
Yeah.
general advertising doesn't work on an instant, release like that. It's you got to put in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. It depends on what you're going after, what your budget is, and what your
Yeah.
demographics are. How many people, are actually interested in your product? Like, there's so many different, analytics that you can
Yeah.
look at and see. And, it's just crazy to how many different things that you can look at and really like dial in and be like, okay, now this makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
with the CRM and high level stuff, like, that is such a great product because of the way how simple it is to use. It's like the iOS of CRMs and
Yeah.
automations. You
For
can go to
sure.
any of your small businesses and be like, hey, look at this. Here's what we've got set up, and as people are like, oh, this is easy. It's just like everything's there. They know how to do it.
Yeah. You
Like
set up the
it's
back end and
intuitive.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Somebody can pick it up and make a phone call.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah.
What got you into the drones in general? Just like peak of interest of just like wanting to fly them
Yeah, I don't know.
around
It's
and
it's kind of a yeah. I mean, I had like RC cars and stuff when I was a kid, and one time my dad and I built a model plane, and it was a funny story on the model plane. We get it together, and it's gas engine, and it all worked, and we didn't know how to fly it, so we went out to this airfield with some other people that had a hobby shop at the time, and they had this big metal plane, probably like a 6 foot wingspan, just an absolute monster. And they're like, "Yeah, come check our stuff out first, and then we'll teach you how to fly yours." And they take off and they're flying it around for 10 minutes and it loses signal. And this, I don't know, probably $5,000 machine just nosedives out. I just watch it land in this cornfield and a million pieces this thing went. It's like, okay, so I see how this is going to go. And we got this little balsa wood plane up in the air and kind of flew it around. And, it was a one-time deal. And it's like, yeah, to have the room to take off. And it was just a total pain in the butt. And they're finicky, right? They're very finicky. It's made out of wood. And yeah, so I'd always kind of had RC cars and stuff like that, and it was cool. I enjoyed that, and so yeah, I picked up just like a Phantom for work. I picked
yeah.
up a Phantom for work. I was like, I want to use video for marketing. I'm going to buy a drone, and I started producing videos like that at work, where I would fly around the dealership with this Mavic or this Phantom 3. It's actually what it was, Phantom 3 4K. And started doing that. It was something that other people had not done yet. It was something that I was the first to the market in that area, to where now I can make advertisement, I can make ads for Facebook that are on par with what TV is doing, right? It looks good. It's an angle that people aren't used to seeing. And so it's working out really well. So that's actually how I got into some of the drone stuff. And then I started buying some of the FPV style drones where you like fly them with a goggle. I got into that and started trying to fly some of those and got quickly addicted. It's, it's a very big adrenaline rush to fly one of those, because this little guy behind me, like this thing right here, I hand built the whole thing. This is built for a GoPro, but this will do 80 to 100 miles an hour, depending on how much battery's left in it and if I got a GoPro on it or not. And so to be able to fly that and do that with no GPS or anything, there's no sort of automatic input. I can fly it 100 miles an hour straight into the ground, and I have. But yeah, it was just something that was very addictive for me, and it was fun. Like I said, in the past, where I have toy cars, and I've got an RX-7 that's got a 5.7 liter V8 swapped into it, and so I like building things and tinkering. So to be able to produce that, tune it, and then go fly it, it's very rewarding for me. And then it just kind of evolved from that, where it was no longer a hobby. People are like, "Hey, your shit looks good. Let me pay you to do this for my business." And so whether that's outside taking some video for real estate or whatever, or taking one of these small guys like this one right here and flying that through their business and getting that one take is something, it's really hard to get that any other way, where you can show the inside, the outside, everything that's going on. And it's just a super unique way to do that. And people love it. It gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually had an Avata. I just sold it, but
Yeah,
I've had a multiple, Mavics, different ones, whether it was the Mini, the Phantom, the Air, stuff like that. And
yeah,
I was like, oh, I want to try the goggles. Like this first person's got to be, like completely different. So I
yeah.
got it, and it is. It's wildly like different of just like being there and like not knowing. Like you're used to looking at a phone or a screen while you're
Yeah,
controlling
down,
it, and
up,
like
down, up.
so it was a while to get used to it. I had like the motion controller where I had to like hold it and turn it, and
I
that
have
was
an
a
Avata as well, so I'm familiar with all
yeah,
of it.
that one took a little bit to get used to of like, getting comfortable with turning and like doing the whole thing with
Hmm.
it. And yeah, I just couldn't get used to it. It was fun. It is like you're saying, it's like an adrenaline rush. Like even
Yeah,
it's not as fast as those by any means, but
no,
just going and like having that view that you do and right there in your eyes, it's just like and a whole different experience. It's like
it's
trying
very
VR for
immersive.
yeah, it's like trying
Yeah.
VR for the first time. You're like, wow, like this is
Well, and
crazy.
it's that really cool mix of reality, like if I'm flying, through trees or a gazebo or inside an abandoned warehouse or
Yep.
something with that, like you just have this total mix of reality and virtual reality, and it's just really cool, and I built like that one. I've got two or three of those that are just identical. So when I smash that one into something, I just pull the other one out, keep rolling. It's all good. So
What's the average cost on ones you build like that?
they're not too bad. So, well, I say that they're not too bad. They're not too bad when you break them, right? So, if I was to like, hit something at 40 miles an hour and I break this arm off, this arm's $10, that motor's
Okay.
$20. Uh, Not that terrible. The main parts that are kind of expensive are like your camera set up right here, and then you've got a board that controls. It's got your gyro, your flight controller, and then you've also got an ESC, which is like your motor controller. Um, you've got, I mean, that whole build right there is probably $500, but
Okay.
once it's built, you're normally not breaking all of that at one time,
Right.
so it's not super expensive to fly afterwards, but your initial investment for the goggles, a drone, the controller, you're going to be north of $1,000, $1,500 probably, and
Still
it's
more.
something. Yeah, if I was going to tell somebody to get into it, I would buy probably a controller first and do some sims for on a computer
Yep.
for 3 months or 6 months. Velocidrone, Trip, Uncrashed, some of those, because it is something. It's just not like the Avata 2 where it has GPS and
Yep.
it self levels. Like it's very raw, it's powerful, and it's dangerous. If I was to hit somebody with that, it's no good. So definitely want to practice on the sim and make sure you're not just throwing money down the drain. So
Yeah.
it takes
I
a
mean,
long time to get good.
it's more economic. That's more economical than like getting an Avado or something though and wrecking it, and then basically having
Yeah,
to destroy it because it's not as easy
yeah,
to
it's
repair.
done.
You
So
can, yeah, you can replace an arm or a motor, stuff like that. So like,
yeah,
there is a trade off there for sure of having
yeah.
either one. Some people just
Well, it's
like to
it's
have
like
the
building a
brand.
PC. If you decide you want
True.
to upgrade something, you just rip that one piece off
Yeah.
and you put something else on. And same deal there. I like to tinker with stuff, so I want to build things.
That's true. So yeah, no, I figured you were probably doing a lot more for businesses with them. I've seen a lot of your videos, and those
Hmm.
are cool videos for businesses to have. Whether it's for a car dealership or you're saying for the golf carts. I've seen some cool ones where it's like, yeah, like they'll go into a big building and like kind of like cruise through like the sales area, then like upstairs
Yeah,
into like another area, like. And like you're saying, you can't easily get that with just shooting, unless you're somebody that's got a lot of high end equipment and they've got, the
yeah,
stabilizers that mount to them and stuff like that. Like it's so much easier and less time consuming and easier to get
yeah.
at one or two shots with a drone like that and less of a headache.
As long as you have the talent to fly
Yeah, that's
it.
true.
So,
That is true. That is
I mean,
true.
that's a lot of the thing that really separates it. It's like almost anybody can grab a Mavic and take that shot where it pans out, but the FPV stuff's a totally different game, and it's just very rewarding once you have the hours in. Right, you suck at the beginning of everything, but once
Yeah.
you put in the time, you can get something that's really good.
Yeah. Well, that's cool then. I mean, I'm not surprised that, is that something you're building in with your marketing in general? Is just offering that as additional
Yeah,
services or
yeah. So I do that locally. If somebody wanted to see some of my work, you can just type in getdronephotos.com and it'll pull up a portfolio of different things that I've done for businesses or for fun or whatever. But that's all there to give you an idea of what's possible. But
nice.
yeah, that's something that I'm working into small businesses. Not really the focus, though. It's something that's more of a hobby for me. That is, I'm offering it as a service because it helps other people.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a real big money maker, but it's something I enjoy to go do. Right, so I might as well go do it. But yeah, so it is definitely part of that. It is part of the service. So,
Nice. being here in the Midwest, have you had any farmers or anybody with like ag stuff reach out to you to do any just like flyovers of their fields or property or
Um,
anything other than like real estate?
so a lot of the farmers are getting their data from satellites now. So they
Interesting.
don't necessarily need the drone stuff. I do have a buddy that is doing commercial spraying from a drone.
Yep.
And I did look into that myself a little bit, just decided it wasn't really something that I wanted to get into.
Those are
Um, Yeah. So yeah, if you're looking at some of the commercial, it's a weird deal. I mean, they do really good because like the spray pattern is good, and then the prop wash helps with that, and it's really close. And so they do a great job. That drone right now is your 20 grand entry to 30 grand entry plus $5,000 batteries, and then you have to have your spraying license and an aerial spraying license and FAA waivers. It turns into a real ordeal. Um, but yeah, I'm actually maybe later today. He tried to get me yesterday, but it's really windy to go take video of him spraying a drone
Oh, okay.
with his
Nice.
drone. So like a little bit of droneception there. But yeah, so
Yeah, I've seen a few of them before, and I mean, I'm sure there's probably different sizes of them, but some of the ones I've
yeah.
seen are massive, like the size
Oh,
of a, like a
they're
four
huge.
wheeler. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're huge. They fold up so you can fit them on a trailer or whatever. But
Yep.
like you've got to have a whole trailer system to
Yeah.
hold the chemical, the batteries. You got to have a generators because the batteries you're just working through them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
they hold, I think it's 12 gallons is about the biggest you can get right now. So
still a
you're
lot.
constantly in and out,
Yeah.
to swap depending on what you're doing. And you can swap them out too, the same ones. You can put spreaders on so they can do seed or whatever too. So,
Huh. Yeah. No, I've never seen any like around here flying or anything, but I know like
yeah.
traveling back and forth different places out in the country, I've seen them on like, trailers and be like, wow, like couldn't imagine just trying to like, how somebody, is most likely older person that's even flying them, it's not even like
Yeah.
some young guy that's trying to get into business in the
Yeah.
most scenarios. Like what gets somebody interested, like, I'm going to invest all this money into this. I'm going to learn how to fly this giant ass drone to go
Well,
spray my field.
I think a lot of it for a farmer, right? Your demographic is kind of a tight ass.
Yeah.
And so they're like, man, if I can cut this
True.
middle guy out and spray my own field, I'm going to go do that. And the 30 grand is, tax deductible. So really,
Yeah.
maybe they're only spending 20.
And it is pennies compared to buy, when they spend hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars on tractors and everything else. And I'm
Well, I
sure.
mean, yeah, you compare it to other sprayers or, paying somebody with a plane or a helicopter
Yeah.
to come do it. It's a very different thing. And that coverage is going to be much better than a plane. It's going to be
Yep.
better than a helicopter, depending on where it's at,
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and they can't get as close. That's true. Yeah.
yeah.
We see a lot more planes around here than helicopters, but even
Yeah,
then,
it's just the
like,
speed. It's so
yeah.
fast to lay it down. It's just the quality isn't quite as good. Must be good enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on that. I think as time progresses, the big limiting factor for that to compete is how much weight it can hold. So if it can hold more gallons and the battery life. So if the battery life gets better and it can hold more and go farther, then you're going to see it really take over the market. But until then, it's starting to be capped. It's a lot like electric cars, right? Until that
Yeah.
lifespan's better, it's not really going to take over the rest of it. So
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
yeah.
Cool.